Hello, 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 and welcome to Zepbound Journey with Ange. I am Angela Durant. For those of you who are new, thank you so much for joining us today is a very special day, special episode that I want to share with you. I have a guest, Constance Howard is here in the house, and we're talking all things mindset around weight loss with Zepbound. So I want to bring her to the stage. Give me just a second. I'm going to bring her on. And please help me give her a warm welcome. I'm so happy that you're here. Woo!
I am thrilled to be here. I always love talking to you, so I'm thrilled to be here.
Me too. So let me just give the folks who are brand spanking new to our channel a warm welcome. Hello, hello. So happy to have you here. If you have found our channel, you're probably someone who is interested in the GLP-1s, the weight loss medication. You are maybe just beginning it, just starting it, or you are well on your way and you're looking for a community. This is a kind, caring, supportive community of individuals who are on this journey of weight loss and wellness, right? We are not struggling, but we are fighting the disease called obesity. And we are have leveraged the tool of this weight loss medication. I am on Zepbound by Eli Lilly. I'm currently on 12.5 milligrams of the medication, but you may be on Ozempic, you may be on Mounjaro, you may be on Wegovy, but you're all welcome here. And then for those of you who have been here, our ride or dies from the very beginning, welcome back. For many of you, you know that I struggled with my weight, almost all of my life. I could track it back to age 7. I've been up and down, the biggest girl in the room. My height the highest weight, I was 331 pounds. I am currently in the 260s. I'll give you guys an update on my weight later, but I struggled all my life. I've had 2 bariatric surgeries. I've been on Weight Watchers like 7 times. I've done LA weight loss, Activia, which was some nasty food I couldn't even eat. And so it's brought me here to Zepbound. And Zepbound not only helps you control the satiety and you feel full longer, but it does something really magical for me, and that is as far as the head goes, right? It helps with this, what we call head hunger. And in today's episode, we're talking all about the head, right? Because we have one of the nation's #1 mindset coaches on the planet, and she specializes in confidence and really helping a lot of high-powered professional women who struggle with the imposter syndrome. She helps them build unstoppable confidence. And so I don't want to take away your thunder, but please help me welcome Constance Howard. Yay! So excited that you are here. And why don't you introduce yourself properly to the people?
Well, as Ange said, I'm Constance Howard. I'm an executive coach, and I help women with confidence issues and self-doubt issues. For 40 years, nearly 40 years, I was in TV news. And I was very successful, but I'd walk into a room and I'd look around and I'd think, well, everybody else looks smarter than me, And so I was like a hamster on the wheel. I didn't want anybody to know that I wasn't as smart. I wasn't as good, I wasn't enough. And I thought it was just me. And when I discovered this thing called the imposter syndrome, I thought, well, is there a pill I can take? What can I do? Right? But I realized that it is all an internal struggle with how I viewed my success. And from that point on, I made it my mission and my passion to help other women, realize that it's the imposter syndrome and they can do something about it. And so here I am. And part of that was my weight.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of women, I'd walk into a room and I'd start tugging at this and tugging at that and trying to suck it in a little bit more and sit up a little straight, but that was all because in my mind, I felt like I wasn't enough. And so when I freed myself from that, I was able to see clearly and see myself more clearly. and move on from, what I struggled with.
Hmm. I think that's really interesting because I often feel like the weight are layers of ways to hide, right?
Absolutely.
Ways of like not really showing up as powerfully in life as we can.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You walk in and you think, "Oh, well, I'm, the biggest one." And so you downplay it, you downplay who you are because you think, well, I'm the helper. You
Mhm.
know, I'm the hard worker. I'm the worker bee, as if that's all that you can be. And that's because you see yourself as this heavy person in a society that values, people being waist thin, and it's a cycle. So I would go in the room and I'd be tugging at stuff, and and I wouldn't speak up, and I'd hear my ideas being tossed around, or I would speak up, and then somebody else with a more forceful presence would take
Mhm.
over, and I'd be like, "Well, dang it, I just I just said that," and so in my mind, after the meeting, I beat myself up. How would I beat myself up? I had this negative loop that would go on. The only thing that would soothe the beast,
Mhm.
Coca-Cola and some golden fries from Mickey D. And then I segue into a cake, a cookie, some ice cream. I mean, it was like endless. Uh,
Mhm.
and then I'd wash it all down with another Coke. And
Mhm.
it was a cycle that just kept going on
Yep,
and
and I know that in television news, I mean, you had a very high profile job. There was a lot of pressure. I mean, the
on.
news never stops 24 hours. You had to deal with ratings, right?
Mhm.
And I
Yes,
think you said to me that there was always food, right? There
yes.
was always food in your
There's
office.
always food. There's always food in the newsroom. And pre-COVID, people would, they love the anchors and everything. They would bake stuff and they'd send them in, or, Dunkin' Donuts. It was a National Donut Day, and they would send donuts in, hoping that we would say, "Hey, it's National Donut Day," and Dunkin' Donuts or whoever sent us these donuts. Um, but it was a struggle to get those props on TV, because everybody in the newsroom was like, "Oh, we got a cake, we got a whatever," and we used to joke and say, "You could kill all news people, just send some food into the newsroom."
Don't
We
eat it.
don't stop. We never stopped to say, who sent this in. We would just be like, "Oh, it's there. Let's eat it." We're having a meeting. Let's have food. And I never had a meeting with my staff that I didn't feed them.
Mhm. Mhm.
And if I was going to deliver bad news, I'd take them to a restaurant.
Right. And I mean, we associate food with all kinds of different things. And so I saw a picture of you and
Yes.
didn't even recognize you. And
Do you
so,
have it? Because I want people to know.
no, I should have it. I should have it so I could put it up on the screen. I don't,
Yes.
I don't have it handy, but I couldn't even believe that was you. Um,
Yeah.
just the energy from that picture did not feel like Constance Howard. And just so all of you know, Constance Howard, I call her Connie, is a four-time Emmy winner, right? She doesn't really share that, but she's won 4 Emmys, so she's a stellar at what she does. And I saw this picture of her, and I was like, "Who is that?" Right? Because
Mhm,
that wasn't the Connie that I have
mhm,
come to love and know. And so,
mhm,
what? And I know that you lost a substantial amount of weight, and so I want to talk about your story. I want
mhm.
to talk about you when you were that girl, right, looking pitiful and not full of energy at all, and into who you are now, because you said something to me that really changed the game for me mentally as
Mhm.
I started my weight loss journey. And so I want you to share with the audience that story of kind of your journey of where you were,
Mhm.
and then what you did from a mindset perspective to get to where you are now. And of course, you look beautiful. Uh,
Um, you know, I had spent the last 6 years of my career I was in charge of the morning show for the NBC station here in Washington, D.C., and it was a powerhouse. That morning show brought in gobs of money, and it really was a significant uh, percentage of the overall budget for the newsroom. and for the building itself, right? So it was a really important position because people don't stay up anymore like they used to watch the 11. They miss the midsection, this 5, 6, they miss kind of that because it's dinner and all that. But they don't miss the morning show because that's where they find out, well, what do I have to wear today because of the weather and blah, blah, blah. So it's very important news block. Every day at 7:30-ish, uh, ding, in my email were the ratings. And if the ratings were up, okay, I live another day. If the ratings were down, I better have a story for why those numbers dropped. So there was a lot of
A lot of pressure. That's a lot of pressure.
pressure. And so and this is important, I want us to come back to this. I told myself that I was an emotional eater. I told myself that. And so, the schedule was grueling. I'd wake up at 10 o'clock, prayer and devotion until 11, watch the news, 12, get on the road to get to the station, get there at 1 o'clock, work all day, show goes off at 7. My day doesn't stop at 7. Start planning for the next day, any meetings. So I would leave maybe noon, up at 10 p, leave the station at noon if I was lucky. On some days I had management meetings, so I didn't leave the station until 2. And I'd come home, I'd say, haha, sleep fast, and repeat the cycle. There was no time for me to think about me. There was no time for any of that. And I had gotten in my mind that I wasn't that important. I bought the whole idea of it's a team effort. And it is a team effort. But I think women in positions have to remember you're at the head of that, right? The first bullet comes for you. So, you really have to remember that. So I was probably at my biggest 70 pounds overweight.
Wow. So wait. So wait, I want you to go back to the telling ourselves that we are emotional eaters, because I say that all the time. I was like, I'm an emotional eater, right? Yeah. So can you tell me like what your thoughts are around that?
Well, I told myself I was an emotional eater, and that gave me my excuse to anything that happened. I was emotional. I was an emotional eater. So if the show didn't go well, I need a cupcake. I needed this. I need a Coke. Coke was always my go-to choice because I grew up in that time. I could tell you, and I could go through a 6-pack of Coke and not even think about it, or not have any water all day
because I was just drinking that.
I was drinking Coke. So if the show went great, fantastic. Let's eat something. Let's go to a restaurant and eat something. If it went bad, let's eat something.
Right.
Because I was an emotional eater. And so it didn't take anything for me to say, I'm an emotional eater. I'm going to eat something. I just can't help myself.
That's a really good point, because, I do say to myself, okay, I know why I gained that weight, because something emotional was going on and I went for the food. Right.
Yes.
So, okay. So bring us forward. Like, okay, you were 70 pounds overweight. Share with the audience what you did. What were some of the things that you did? And I say that these are kind of the secrets to losing weight, because we don't often think about, I know I didn't often think about my mindset. I just thought about, okay, you got to exercise, you got to eat right, you got to, so kind of share with the audience what you did.
Yeah. So my mindset was that I'm an emotional eater. I really can't help myself. And plus I've got a lot of stress in my life. But when I left TV news, I carried that over, and my really good girlfriend and I would say, we'd talk on Sunday and we'd say, okay, Monday's the day. And we're going to clean out throw away everything that we had bought. And we were going to start on Monday. Well, by Wednesday, it was all over, and I go back and buy that same food that I had thrown out, And so that was my mindset. And then one day I saw that picture again that you're referring to. And I thought, wow, I could feel the sadness.
Mhm. Yes.
I felt the sadness.
Mhm.
And I started reading this book called Atomic Habits.
Okay, I talk about that. Yep.
And part of that is what you believe is what you're going to do. The identity that you take on is what you're going to live up to. So if you think you're an emotional eater, that's what you're going to do. If you think you can't change, then you won't change. And
Mhm.
so I started saying to myself, I am a lean person. I'm a healthy person, right? And I talk to my clients all the time about I ams. And people go, oh, here we come with the I am.
But they
But
work.
but
Mhm.
they work. I kept saying that to myself. And I wrote down my why. Why did I want to do this? Why was this so important? Why was this haunting me? I want to be able to move. I want to be able to enjoy my life. I want to know that if I have to walk a mile, I can walk a mile, right? I didn't want to be that person that I was, that, oh, woe is me person. I didn't see myself as that anymore. And so I assumed an identity
Mhm.
of I'm a lean, healthy person. I am strong, resilient. I came up with a mantra for myself. And
Mhm.
I started saying that over and over. Well, then my mind said, well, if you're that person, what are you doing?
Mhm.
Right? My habits, my behaviors had to reinforce who I thought I was. And that's when I started exercising. My whole mind changed.
Mhm.
And when that clicked in my mind that I was no longer that person and I
Mhm.
was this new person, I let the new person dictate what I was going to do on a day by day basis.
I love that. I absolutely love that because it's funny because I'll see pictures of myself,
Mhm,
be like, who is she? Who is
mhm,
that girl? Right?
mhm.
Because you said to me, and that's the reason why I wanted to have you on the show, is because you said to me when you looked in the mirror, who you saw in the mirror wasn't who you are. Who
Right.
you saw in the mirror is who you used to be, right?
Yes.
All
Yes.
all of the decisions that you made up until that
Mhm,
point gave you the body that you had
mhm.
that you were looking at in the mirror. But
Yes.
you weren't embracing that. You were
No,
saying, nope, she's a different girl, right? She's a different girl. The body just hasn't caught up to her yet. But
absolutely.
but really assuming that identity, and it's so powerful because what we believe drives
Yes,
behavior.
absolutely.
Uh,
Absolutely.
so, so go ahead. So I just
So I'd look in the mirror at 70 pounds over, but I'd see my future self, right? I'd see my future self. And I started doing all of the things that my future self, my lean, strong, healthy self would do. And that changed everything, Ange. I
Mhm.
changed my schedule. I put in time when I was going to exercise and I would put the pen down and get up. I didn't care what I was doing. If I was in the middle of something, that's what I did. I put the pen down. I'd go to the gym. I didn't care who was looking. I
Mhm.
didn't care what I had on. And Ange, I wear the same thing every single day to the gym, but I didn't care. You
Mhm.
know, I didn't care. And I made it easy for myself. So, like I say, I wore the same things over and over because I was going to stand in front of the closet and go, "Oh, these tights look better than this tight," and I didn't want to show. I didn't care, So I made it easy. The clothes were right there, the bag was right there, and the gym was like 15 minutes away. And then as I got stronger, I would add new things to what I would do. But in addition to that, I got a food scale.
Mhm.
All the things that I said I didn't like,
Mhm.
I bought, you know, cherry tomatoes are my, go-to kind of, I want to pop something in my mouth, I'll pop a cherry tomato in my mouth. So I
Mhm.
got all the foods. I made it real easy because it's when you don't have it right there, especially in the beginning, you'll go back to your old habits. Oh, I
Mhm.
don't have anything in the house to eat. That means I need to go to Chick-fil-A.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
You know, I
mm-hmm.
eliminated all I eliminated all of that, and so that was easier for me to, um, stay on track. And
Mm-hmm.
here's the thing, I am not an emotional eater. That was part of my identity, and I decided I am not that person, and I can move on, and I accepted that I was gonna be hungry. Like, yeah, my stomach's growling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like sometimes I'm gonna be hungry, and
Um,
I think that is really that's helpful for me because that's I've been saying that for years. I'm an emotional eater. I'm an emotional eater. Like I go for it
yeah,
when I'm happy, when I'm sad, when I'm bored, you know. But to
right.
say no, you're not anymore.
No,
That's not who you are
no,
anymore. I think
mm-mm.
it's really good. And let me tell the audience, like Constance Howard is not on a GLP-1, right? She's not taking Zepbound or Ozempic or anything like that. She's not. She lost weight on her own, but she does look at it as a lifestyle change.
Yes,
And so
absolutely.
I think that for our community, you know, I want to make sure that not only do we have the aid of this tool of
Mhm.
the medication, but we also have whatever resources that we need to make us successful forever, right? Long term,
Absolutely,
right.
absolutely.
And then as far as it being a lifestyle change, right? Being
Mhm.
able to have more control because we have the medication to make choices that are good for ourselves. But if we see ourselves differently, I think
Yes.
that that is the game changer, right? How
Absolutely,
we see
absolutely.
ourselves.
Because if you don't see yourself differently, then what's gonna happen is after a while, you'll be like, "Oh, I can do this and I can do that, and I'll just rely on the medication," right? You don't wanna just rely on the medication. You wanna be able to control, right, what you do, control your behaviors,
And
right?
make good choices for
And
yourself.
make good choices for yourself. Every time you make a good choice for yourself, that is a vote in favor of you. That is a vote of saying, I believe in you. I think you're wonderful. I think you're strong and resilient and all of those things. When you do take the positive steps that keep you in a healthy mode, right? It would be a waste if you go through this whole process and then you end up not where you want to be.
Right, right. And the other thing that I really admire about you so much is that I feel like you take away excuses, right? You take away excuses because, you know, you're what, a baby boomer, right? You're a
Yeah.
boomer.
Yeah.
Okay. And so as a baby boomer, you can say, oh, well, I'm too old to do that. I can't do that. Look, let me just tell you ladies out there and brilliant men. Constance Howard, I saw her on Instagram jumping rope, like jumping rope. Okay. Then I saw her, and this just blew my mind. I saw her rock climbing. She was
Yeah.
climbing up and she was like going up the top of the wall, right? And I was like, well, I was like, I would never even think of of
Yeah.
putting a harness on to climb a wall. And I was like, you take away all the excuses, right? You're doing the thing, you know, you're doing water aerobics, you're walking, you're jumping rope, you're doing all these things to keep
Mhm.
yourself healthy and fit long term.
Yeah. And also to build my confidence, right?
Mm,
Confidence is a muscle. And you have to step out there and you have to exercise that muscle. And every time you do something that you say, oh, I can't do, or I'm afraid to do, or I shouldn't do, you are building your muscle. And so, yeah, I do all of that because one, it's fun. Two, I'm determined that at 69, right,
mhm,
nobody's going to tell me what I can and can't do. Right. I may not be able to do it as fast as you. I may not be able to do it as elegantly as you, but I'm going to do
yeah.
it. I'm going to do it. And that was all part of that mindset change. That
Mhm,
mindset change came in and it said, you are no longer that sad person. You're no longer, you know, emitting that vibe, right? Because I think when you have such low vibration, people pick up on it.
mhm.
People pick up on it and they,
Even through just the picture,
oh
I,
my gosh,
I felt so sad, you know.
yes,
Mhm,
absolutely, absolutely. And and I felt for her. I felt
mhm,
for her because I could see how that cycle. I could see how she wanted more for herself, but didn't know how to get more. I know I felt for her because I felt, but because I saw all the hours that she put into work, and everybody else was, holding up their Emmys and everything. And I thought, why can't I feel that? Right?
Mhm.
Why can't I feel that? And when I made that mindset change, it was like a fog lifted. And I don't want people to think like, oh, okay, this was an instant. It
Right.
wasn't instant. I had to do those I ams. I had to do a mantra. I had to do, every day. And every day, not everybody believed me
Mhm.
because they saw me start on Monday and end on Wednesday.
Right.
So I'm sure people are like, here we go again.
Mhm. And
So
in our community, we can definitely relate to that because friends, family, they've seen us try different diets, try
yes.
something on Monday, be done on Wednesday. Like they've seen it again and again and again.
Mhm,
Let me ask you this about, because what I often think about is the transformation that people are taking physically
mhm,
and how to manage the mindset with that, right? So, they're losing all this weight, right? Getting
mhm,
getting fly, they're getting cute, right? But upstairs, they are
mhm,
still the heavier version of themselves. So how did
mhm,
you go from, a frumpier,
mhm.
version that was kind of looking sad to, this your beautiful self? Like, how did you do that? Because I know sometimes people don't, they start getting thinner and they don't even see it. Like for me,
Mhm,
I don't often like I don't know it. I don't know
mhm,
I lost 30 pounds because maybe some slacks, some trousers that I'm trying on fit me where they were too tight before. But
mhm,
or people will say, I see it in your face. Like I see your
mhm,
eyes look brighter. I see,
mhm,
you know what I mean? Like, and then eventually,
mhm,
especially for many of us who have a lot of weight to lose, as we're losing a lot of this weight, you
mhm,
get more attention.
mhm,
Right? People start treating you differently, right?
mhm.
You might start making more money, right? All these things start happening.
Right.
Up here, you're still the girl who was 100 pounds overweight, who was
Yeah.
70 pounds overweight. So,
Mhm.
how did you deal with the mindset part of that transformation?
That again, I go back to those I ams and those mantras that I would say over and over to myself. And also, I didn't do this, but I think this is a good idea to take pictures of yourself. You
Mhm.
know, there's a program called 75 Hard, and it's more about your mindset than it is about being how you look physically. But what it suggests is that you take a picture every day so that
Uh-huh.
you can see yourself, right? Every step of the way. And every step, you celebrate yourself.
Mm.
You applaud yourself. You say,
Mhm.
I love you. I
Mhm.
love you. I love how you're looking. Wow, you are bad somebody, you know. And for me, I had all these clothes that I would go out and buy but couldn't fit in. And I would say one day. And
Mhm.
as I was able to get into these things, I was like, wow.
Mhm.
My mindset said, look what you did.
Good. Yeah.
Look what you're doing. It
Mhm.
takes courage and it takes time, it takes effort. You got to believe in yourself to go on this weight loss journey because,
Mhm.
like we said, people around you are not going to believe you. And
Mhm.
then when you start to change, that makes them look at themselves, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And so I know, Ange, I remember one time I showed up at your place and
Mhm.
I had on a short skirt. And let me tell you, this is what I didn't tell you. I
Mhm.
bought this short skirt and I knew my sisters would be like, clutch the girls. What is going on here? Right.
Mhm.
And so I was driving to you, and it's like a 4-hour ride or a 3-hour ride or whatever. So I had to leave very early. And I put this on in the dark. And
Mhm.
I knew my sisters would not see me,
Mhm.
right? Because I was still kind of like, you know, is this really me? Is this, how are people going to respond?
Mhm.
And I put it on, I wore it. And you were like, girl, what's going on here? You look good.
Loved it. I loved it. It
Let me
was
tell you, those shoulders went back. And I was like, let me put the girls up higher.
I saw thought you looked great. She had on the skirt. It was so cute. She had on tights. She had her boots on.
I don't combat boots and everything.
She had her like Burberry sweater, whatever on. I was like, okay, I see you.
And that gave me even more confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And so from that point on, I was like, oh no, we're going to try anything and everything. And I don't care what people say, and if they liked it or didn't like it. And my response has always been, if I wear something that, is out of the norm, if someone says something about not liking it or whatever, my response is, oh, so glad you don't have to wear it.
Right.
So glad you don't have that. But after all the hard work that you put in, of course you're going to flaunt it and show it off. And I don't think there's anything wrong in it, right? You're doing some hard work. You're changing who you are. You're changing how you identify yourself, right? And you're exercising that confidence muscle.
Yes, I love that. I love taking time to really look at the work that you've done.
Yes.
Celebrating yourself.
Yes.
Celebrating yourself, because oftentimes we look for other people. Like, I put this dress on today and I came out. My husband was like, working on his computer. I thought he's going to be like, okay, you look really nice today. He didn't say nothing. He didn't even say nothing, right? So I was like, okay, let me look in the mirror. Okay, you're looking like a Batman pajama today.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. And he might say, if I said to him, well, you didn't say anything, he goes, you always look nice. You look pretty, He would say that. But it's really what I'm hearing you say is take credit for the work that you're doing, right? Absolutely. And I always say, this isn't an easy thing, right? You have to be bold to be one of the first to be out on this cutting edge medication and put yourself out there, whether you share it with the world that you're taking it or not. But you have to be brave. You have to be courageous, right? To go through these steps, to try again. I say in our community, we fall down again and again. We fail at weight loss again and again and again, but they've gotten back up again, right? This is a time that they're getting back up, and despite the failures from the past, they're still going forward. And what I'm hearing you say is that you need to give yourself credit for all the things that you're doing. Like, she did that. Yes. She did that thing, right? And celebrating that.
Yes. And everybody's going to have something to say about something. Everybody's going to have something to say about something. They're going to say, well, you did it with the medication. Okay, so and what's your point, right? It got to a point where here's one. Every time after you lose weight, or when you're in the process of losing weight, that does not mean that you are never going to take a Snickers bar.
Oh, right.
You're never going to drink a Coke. And every time I would pick up something, is that a Coke?
Oh, no.
Is that a muffin? Yes, it looks like a muffin. It tastes like a muffin. It must be a muffin. You know what I'm saying? What I'm saying is,
you don't need the food police, right?
You don't need the food police.
You're the boss of you.
Exactly. But when you know who you are and what you're doing and what your journey is, right? You don't care what they have to say. Right. I recently went on vacation. And I went to Ghana. I went to Ghana and Amsterdam. I am not going to watch what I put in my mouth. I'm going to try their food. I'm going to do all the things. And then when I come back, I'm going to get back on the wagon. Right. People want to make it seem like, you're doing this and they want to comment on that. And usually it's the folks who are sitting on the sidelines who have so much to say. And so that's why I'm going to go back to I ams. I'm going to go back to the mantras that you have to have, and you have to seal that identity in your heart and your soul. So when it comes up, when someone has something negative to say, you can fight it off. You got to be like Wonder Woman. Somebody says some negative stuff.
Right. And I love that, like really owning your identity and telling yourself, because sometimes you get confused, you get lost in what other people might say, or if you just have a bad day, you have to have clarity around who you are, right?
I don't mean to interrupt you. One time my sister said, she came over and she said, "Oh my gosh, people who we know in common are asking if you're sick because you've lost so much weight." And I said to her, "Oh, thank goodness. I appreciate. Tell me again, what did they say?" Because that was
Tell me
meant.
again how skinny they said I am.
Exactly. Because that was, that's something where if you let that seed in your mind, you think, okay, I need to stop and I need to, whatever. No, that was like, Connie, that was green light.
You're doing the thing. You're just doing the thing. Well, this is really great, and I'm so glad that you said yes to come on. Of course, I love
Oh,
you.
yes.
But I love the work that you're doing in the world and how you focus on women, because men struggle with imposter syndrome too, and you've got a whole tribe of men who follow you. And I'm not sure if they follow you for the imposter syndrome or they follow you just because you're cute. I'm not really sure, but we do, and there's a price to be paid
Oh
when you
my
have
gosh.
confidence. It's a price to
Yes.
be paid. People will underpay you
Yes.
in your corporate jobs, or you might not ask for what you really deserve.
Right.
In your relationships, you settle for less than you should. I've heard that people who lose massive amounts of weight sometimes get divorced.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because now they're becoming more confident in who they are. They're owning who they are. They're not shrinking.
Mm-hmm.
They're speaking up, right? And that might cause conflict
Right.
with if the relationship went a different way. But there are a lot of different changes that happen,
Yes.
and that I think it's important to really be grounded in who you are, and that
Yes.
starts up here, and
Yes.
that's what you are masterful at. And I know that, just from, doing work in the world, in the corporate world, where I would meet people who, like, on paper, they got
Mhm.
it all,
All together.
together, but behind closed doors, if we did a one-on-one coaching session together, they would tell me, like, I have the imposter syndrome. I'm afraid I'm going to get found out. I'm not sure if I'm as good as I think I am. And that's your specialty, right? You work with these
Absolutely.
high
Absolutely.
achievers.
82% of professional women out there have some form of the imposter syndrome. That was the latest statistic that I saw. 82%. So we're walking around, we're winning Emmys, we're doing all of the things, and we're secretly thinking, I'm not enough. I don't deserve that success. You would say, Connie, I remember when I, showed you the Emmy, you were like, "Oh, well, why don't you talk about it?" That's because inside I just didn't. It was like, yeah, I got one.
Mhm.
I was still that girl who was so insecure and so lacked so much confidence that you could say anything to me. And just one side look from my boss would get me to work extra hours. Right. Because I thought, what did that mean? What was he trying to communicate to me? And 82% of professional women are out there in some way. You may feel you're not enough in your career. You may feel like you're not enough at home. The imposter syndrome takes a whole lot of shapes and forms, and it manifests itself in so many ways. And it's so sad because you are losing out on money. You are losing out on just being who you were meant to be, who God meant you to be. You're missing out on that because something in your mind says you're not enough. Right. And so I work with women who think like that, and we slowly turn it around, and we get them to the point where, like my mom would say, they bet on themselves. Right. So I look at women who are in this weight loss journey. You're betting on yourself. You're going to the casino table and you're putting the chips down
The
on you. Yeah,
tips.
you're putting the chips down on you. It takes courage to do that because everybody else around you has something to say about it, you know. So it takes a lot of courage. And, the more you can change your mindset and prepare yourself for that onslaught of, change, how change is going to show up in your family, among your friends, the better you will be. But it starts with how you see yourself. If you see yourself as a bad mama jamma and your friends got something to say, well, then, okay, well, peace out. See ya. You, you
Right.
got, you got to keep it moving.
And that, like, brings us back full circle from when you were talking about in the beginning, right? Around really, owning yourself, like
Yes.
really knowing who it is that you're called to be, right?
Yes.
And stepping into that and owning yourself and taking responsibility. When you were talking about, oh, I'm an emotional eater, it's like you're making excuses, right? I feel like when I heard you say that just now, it's like, you know what? I say that all the time. But it's like saying, okay, I'm responsible for me. Right? Good, bad, ugly. When I fall down, when I eat something, I'm the boss of me. I'm responsible for me. I'll take a responsibility for and accountability for any of my failures. And I'm going to embrace all of my successes.
Absolutely. And that is so key. Embrace it. And it doesn't matter if it's a half a pound, embrace it. And that's one of the things that you taught me as we start doing the branding stuff. If I get one more subscriber, whoo, I got one more. I'm looking at people who have 10,000s and all of that kind of stuff. And I could fall into the why me, but you know what? You're going at your own pace. You run your own race, right? But don't wait until you lose all of the weight to assume the identity of that person. Assume that identity right now and start doing what that person would do right now.
I love that. So Connie, I can talk to you all day. So how do people get in touch with you? Subscribe to your channel, give us all the stuff.
All the deets, right? Okay, so let's start with website, ConstanceHowardLLC.com. ConstanceHowardLLC.com. YouTube channel, Constance Howard, Executive Coach. Everything has a Constance Howard in it. So if you put in Constance Howard, you're going to eventually find me. But the two best ways to see some of my content that I post, and the content has to do with the imposter syndrome and then all the offshoots of building your confidence. And that's Constance Howard, Executive Coach. That's on YouTube. And then my website is ConstanceHowardLLC.com.
That's fantastic. And and who's like the ideal person for you to work with?
I deal with women who are like me. We have some success under our belts. We have some years under our belts, and we're thinking, what is my next chapter going to be? What does that look like? Or how do I move up in this corporate chain, as a seasoned person with all of the experience that I have? How do I move up? How do I walk into that room and own that room? How do I have them eating out of my hands? That's the kind of woman that I'm looking for and I want to work with. Women who are ready to make the commitment to bet on themselves.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And so you're also, I don't know if you mentioned you're on LinkedIn. I know on LinkedIn. And I also like to put out, if there's anybody here who works for a company, an organization who wants to bring in a Constance Howard, right? Someone of her caliber to speak at their organization, to talk to the women and the men too. She's actually a great fit for that. I think you're such a great fit for that. As
Lunch
well.
And
Yep. Lunch and learns, things like that, keynote speeches, and she does great workshops.
Yes. And let me just say, when you have employees that have the imposter syndrome, first of all, they're hiding. And second of all, it has ramifications on your bottom line, which is, I don't think people talk about, but your bottom line is affected because they don't speak up in meetings with their great ideas. They shrink away from being promoted within the company, right? So they're not taking their expertise and then spreading it out among other workers, right? So you're losing out there. It's a vicious cycle that affects everybody. When you feel less than, you give out less than, right? And you don't operate at your peak performance.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. I'm so glad that you were here to join us today. For those of you, tell us your YouTube site again, because I love to invite our community to subscribe and like her channel. What's your channel again?
Constance Howard, Executive Coach.
Okay, so that's
just tell me that Ann sent you so we can.
Ann sent me over here because I know that if you're anything like me, you struggled with the mindset piece, right? Making sure like you struggle with your worth, you struggle with accepting your accomplishments, you struggle with looking outside of everybody else instead of going within, right? You've done
Yes.
all those things and that can cost you, right? That can cost you. I attach my
Mhm.
identity to work. I attach my identity to accomplishments, right?
The
Um,
titles.
right, to titles, right? And I was like, well, who am I without those things?
Mm-hmm.
So I want the women in this community to, and the brilliant men, I can't forget about you guys, right? To really be solid in their mindset, right? Be solid in the vision that they have for themselves, right? To
Yes.
really step into the person they want to become.
Mm-hmm.
And leave that past person behind because they're really shedding that person to step into who they're becoming. So any
Absolutely.
closing words that you'd like to give
Well,
to
you know what? The only thing that I want to say is every time you see yourself, progressing, I want you to thank that old person. Thank her for getting you to where you are, right? Because she got you here. Right? She got you here with all of her flaws and, deficiencies and blah, 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 blah. She got you here. And, sometimes I take time to look at that old picture and say, thank you. I know you were in a lot of pain and I know you were hurting, but I'm taking care of her now. I got this now. You don't have to, be in pain any longer.
I think that's fantastic. That's fantastic. All right. Okay. You heard it. You heard it here. You heard it here. So for the community, the Zepbound Journey community with Ange, thank you so much for being here. Connie, is there anything else? Did we leave anything? Any
On the table. The only thing I want to say is I'm so proud of you, Ange, because I see, not only are you doing this for yourself, but you're doing this for others. And I think this is it takes a lot of courage to come out and say, this is what I weighed. It's almost like saying for a lot of women, how old are you? It takes a lot of courage. And I want to applaud you in that.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm learning from you. I'm learning. You have just been a treat to have here. I hope that you all have found value in what she's saying. If you follow her, you will hear she goes even deeper. But I think it all starts with our mindset, right? And believing that we can do it. And one of the things I always tell the community is that even though you might not see the number move on the scale, you know that what you're doing, all the steps you're taking are, and the science behind it is proven that it works, right?
Yeah.
It works, and that it'll eventually work for me. It'll eventually work for you. And so we're here as a community to support one another along this journey, right? Along this journey. But it starts up here, understanding and believing, right? I always say that the medication gives me hope. Believing that it's possible that you can become that version of yourself that you want. And now Connie has told us, that we need to have her in our mind. And that's the person that we need to behave as she would behave or as he would behave. So thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe here on Zepbound Journey with Ange. Share this video with people that you think that it will add value to. And don't forget to like and subscribe to Connie's channel and tell us one more time, where do they go on YouTube?
Constance Howard, Executive Coach.
All right, fantastic. Tell them Ange sent you. Tell Ange sent you. Thank you so much for joining us. I want you to go out there, as always. I want you to be bold because it takes boldness to show up and be authentically who you are, to step into your own identity, not what people say you should be, but who you actually are. It takes bravery. You got to be bold and brave. It takes courage to do what you're doing. And for those of you who have your own channels or are sharing your journey, that's not easy. Like Connie said, that's not easy to be putting all your business out there. But I see you doing it, and it takes brilliance because I want you to go out there and be brilliant because that's who you are. And when other people see your shine, it gives them permission to shine too. So thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time. Take care. Bye for now.